Welcome. On today's show, we are going to be delving into all the racing action from around the world, and we have got a lot. Everything from Super Sprint through to Ironman Continental Champs.
Plus, DT Swiss release a disc wheel.
And we're going to be discussing the likelihood of Kona actually happening in 2021. Right then, this weekend we had 6 more pro athletes qualify for the Ironman World Championships in Kona, and we have just 2 more qualifying races left for them. One for the men, one for the women, with 2 slots available at each. However, I think we're all putting this rather big question off, aren't we? Will Kona actually even happen?
If you're planning to go to Kona, don't panic. Not yet. Ironman has not made any announcements, and as far as they're concerned at this point, it is 100% happening. However, there are a lot of countries that the US is simply not allowing travelers in from, and a lot of countries are not allowing people from the US to travel back there after the race. So travel to the race and from the race is going to be quite difficult. Now, for pro athletes, they can get what they call an elite athlete exemption, or an NRE or national interest exemption. So the pro race should be fine. Most of the pros will be able to qualify for that. They may have to quarantine on the way home from the US, but if you've had a good Kona race, that probably won't be too much of a chore. Age groupers, on the other hand, don't qualify for any such exemption, and unless, even if you're double vaccinated, you're not necessarily allowed to travel to the US. So it's looking like it might be a US athlete only world champs.
On top of that, there has been some movement in Hawaii itself that I guess is raising some pretty big concerns. It has become understandably an even more popular holiday destination for US citizens. And as a result, in just 3 days last week, they saw 2,000 COVID-19 cases just in 3 days. Also, on top of that, the availability for rooms for quarantine out in Hawaii are becoming very limited. And they did actually cancel 2 rather large outdoor athletics events just in the recent couple of weeks. The Queen Liliuokalani canoe race, which is a long distance race out there, and also the Duke's Ocean Festival.
Now those 2 events, which have cancelled at the last minute, were relying on the same large outdoor gathering exemption that Ironman Hawaii is planning to use for their event, and their permission was pulled at the last minute. So it's not looking too great for that Kona event. Even if they've got the permissions in place, they could easily have that pulled out from them. And the Hawaiian authorities are taking it all pretty seriously. It's jails or fines for people who breach any of the rules. Is Kona going to happen?
It's really tough. And I think, even from our perspective sat here, we still don't know if we're going to Kona or not.
Yeah, we'd love to be going to Kona, and the travel is just too difficult. They don't recognize some of the vaccinations that some of our staff members have had, and the other ones don't necessarily qualify you for travel. Personally, I actually have a professional athlete national interest exemption, which I got last November, so I could go, but with no other staff with me.
We might see some very poor iPhone footage.
Yeah, exactly. That would be all we're left with, so maybe it's not worth me going. Yeah, and none of the other guys can get an exemption. If we can't get there and we want to be covering the event, can anyone else get there to cover the event? Can the athletes get there? The age groupers get there? Can their families get there? And if no one can get there, is it a world champs? Is it worth having it?
Yeah, this is the big question. So we'd love to hear from you guys. Get involved in the comment section down below. Is Kona going to happen? Isn't it? What are your thoughts?
On to a race that actually is going to happen just next weekend, and that is the Collins Cup. Now, the teams have been picked, 4 elite qualifiers and 2 captain's picks for each of the teams, for each of the men and the women, and this is how they stand now. We have Team Europe and Team International, and finally, Team USA looks like this.
And if you're wondering how these were all selected, then we do actually have a video on our channel. We had the exclusive captain's picks. The captains joining us, the likes of Mark Allen, actually running us through why and who they have picked. So you can check that out on our channel. Also, do stay tuned for the race because it is going to be happening in just 9 days' time, and it's looking like it's going to be incredibly fierce.
Mark will be heading out there to bring you all the coverage and behind the scenes action, I suppose, talking to the pros and looking at their bikes and all that kind of stuff. I'm pretty jealous. I'll be staying here and holding down the fort.
Yeah, I would like James there, but unfortunately visas won't allow. Moving on, Tim O'Donnell has actually revealed on a YouTube video last week that at Challenge Miami earlier this year, where he actually placed 11th, he suffered a massive heart attack. He quoted, he said, "I felt a shooting pain down the left side of my chest. My jaw was clenched up. I was down on my bars and I just knew this is not normal and didn't feel like normal race pain. This is something more. I thought to myself, is this a heart attack?"
And it was. It was what they call the Widowmaker. And it's called that because only 12% of people who have it actually survive it. It's a blockage of the left anterior descending artery, which is a pretty major artery in your heart, and it's almost always fatal. He was very lucky to walk away from this, and we're very glad he did. Obviously, he's already talking about a comeback and when he's going to come back. We think maybe he's got 2 small kids at home and his priorities might shift to something else at this point. Whatever he decides, we wish him all the best, and we certainly wish him health in the future.
Absolutely, and also just hats off. I mean, finishing the race and running so impressively as well.
Yeah, he finished 11th. He kept that 300 watts up for the rest of the ride and then got off and ran a whole marathon after having a Widowmaker heart attack. Hardcore.
Absolutely insane. Also last week we mentioned about the Talisman Triathlon and we have a little bit of an update. So Frankie Tinsley is taking on the epic Great British Ultra Triathlon, basically going from one end of the Great Britain to the other, from Land's End to John O'Groats via swim, bike, run, over 14 days, which is pretty phenomenal. At the time of airing, he approximately has 3 days left if he sticks to plan. So he's currently cycling to Loch Awe, and then he's going to be swimming across Loch Awe, which is 41 kilometers, which he plans to do across 2 days. Ouch, that's going to be painful. And then he's going to casually run 103 kilometers in 1 day, and then finally 302 kilometer cycle in 2 days, finishing at John O'Groats.
Well, we wish him luck for the end of his challenge. Epic challenge. I don't think that's a triathlon we'll be doing anytime soon.
He's doing very well, very impressed.
Yeah, it's a pretty epic triathlon. On to some less positive triathlon news. Positive turn of phrase there. Igor Polyansky has tested positive for genetically engineered erythropoietin, or EPO. Basically, your body makes EPO so that it produces red blood cells, but they've detected fake EPO basically in his blood. It was at an out of competition test on the 21st of July in Russia before he traveled to Tokyo, but the World Triathlon was only made aware of it on August the 5th after the race. He hasn't yet had his B sample tested, which he has the right to do, but they have been informed. The 31-year-old competed in both the mixed relay and the individual events. He finished 14th and 43rd in the individual race, so it wasn't really a factor, but another druggie caught.
Very disappointing. Moving on to some more positive news though. Our marathon training, hopefully this is positive news. How's it going, James?
My training's not been going nearly as well as I would hoped. Yeah, it's like I said last time we did a little update. I'm really struggling with, we're not settled into a house. The children are not settled into a nursery or anything like that. So we're taking a bit of strain, and that means that training is pretty much the last priority at the moment. So I'm getting out for runs, but they're mostly at Cody the dog pace and not really at 2:30 marathon pace, unfortunately.
Real training.
Yeah, real life training. I don't think Cody could run a 2:30 marathon either, though, so that's a bit of an issue.
Well, I might have to recruit.
How about yours,
well,
Mark?
I was going to say I might recruit you for some pacing. Mine's going okay. Similarly, life has got in the way a little bit. Not out of lack of trying. I really am trying to fit it all in, but I think in comparison to you, it's going very well.
We did a pretty hard session the other day together, and Mark did run away from me towards the end, but I was pretty chuffed with how I hung on. However, I have to say that I certainly felt that for a few days afterwards, and if you're feeling a session like that for a few days afterwards, not a few hours, you're probably not anywhere near the fitness you need to be a month out from the event.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've kind of readjusted my expectations. I may be looking at a 2:35 marathon, but Guys, stay tuned because this weekend we'll be giving you a more thorough update on our marathon training. You get to see how things have played out over the past few weeks, so stay tuned for that one. Right, moving on to the tech news, and DT Swiss has officially entered the market of disc wheels with their brand new ARC 1100 die-cut disc wheel. Now this essentially completes the DT Swiss Aero lineup. It's engineered and built in-house at DT Swiss, but also has been aerodynamically optimized with the clever folk over at Swiss side. They have found approximately a 2-watt improvement from the wind tunnel when they compared that to simply having an 80mm front and rear. It's also remarkably light, 1100 grams, which makes it one of the lightest tubeless clincher disc wheels for disc brake bikes. And the bit that I think is really cool is that you can also change the color of the decals on the disc.
Yes, it comes with 4 different colors: black, red, gold, and chrome. Mark's gone for the gold, of course he has.
Of course I have. It's very easy, you just peel the other one off and whack it. It really is very simple. If you want to find out more on this disc wheel, because it is rather lovely, stay tuned for our video tomorrow. We're literally going to be looking at, is a disc wheel worth it?
So from some pretty specific tri-tech, because everyone wants a disc wheel, to some not so specific tri-tech, SRAM, RockShox and Zip have partnered together to release a gravel-specific version of their Axis group set. Now, it's called the Explore, spelt XPLR, because who needs vowels? I mean, it's so last millennium having vowels. The Explore group set basically is a 1-bar group set with a range so that you can go on more versatile terrain. So it has a much wider range. New derailleurs can go from 10 to 44, I think, in the rear on a 1-bar set. They've a RockShox shock, which has 30 to 40 millimeter travel for your gravel bike, and then it's paired with Zip gravel wheel set with Zip tires, so you can really kit out your gravel bike, but it's pretty versatile for triathletes perhaps.
Well, I think this is the interesting thing. Like with the SRAM group set, you can kind of interchange this between road and off-road. And for us triathletes who may be being interested in 1-by setups, but perhaps haven't got quite the strength for the very limited gear ranges on current 1-by setups, this is actually opening up the doors for a lot of other people.
A bit of technology trickle down, because they're using this technology innovations to create a bigger range on their gravel group sets, but that might be very useful for triathletes with their slightly hilly bike course, maybe on their 1-bar. So maybe we'll see that on a triathlon bike soon. On to the racing news, and we had a brand new event, the WTCS Montreal, which was a super sprint eliminator format. For the first time we've seen that in the WTCS series. And I have to say that the Friday qualifiers weren't exactly thrilling, and even the first couple races in the eliminator format on the Saturday were not exactly too exciting, but it got more interesting as the weekend went on, and the final race was very interesting and very thrilling. Flora Duffy showed her class after the her Olympic Games gold. She broke away with Taylor Knibb and Taylor Spivey. Taylor Knibb actually just rode off from the group and left the rest for dead, and only Flora Duffy and Taylor Spivey could stay with her. Flora then ran away for the win, and Taylor Knibb came in second, Taylor Spivey in third. In that race, Katie Zaferis leading the chasers in fourth.
On the men's side, it was the 3 Frenchmen in French-speaking Montreal that were really on form. They broke ahead of the rest of the field in that final in an epic sprint finish, and it was Dorian Connings that actually took the win just over Vincent Louis, and then Leo Berger in third.
Vincent Louis kept the qualifying round quite interesting by dropping his chain, fixing it while he was still rolling, and then time trialing on his own back up to the group. It was worth it because he ended up second for the weekend, which was pretty impressive. The following day, they had a mixed relay like they had in the Olympics, and it was the USA who won this time, with New Zealand second and Italy taking the bronze there. Now, on to some discussions around this WTCS Montreal race. There was a bit of dissent in the pro ranks. Maya Kingma, who was leading the WTCS series points going into this weekend, didn't show up. She basically said, I'm not going because I don't like the format and I don't agree with it.
Yeah, interesting. And also Non Stanford, who actually did race and finished 10th in the final. Also likened it to a 10,000 meter track athlete racing in the 400 meter hurdles. I mean, I get what she's saying, but I mean, didn't actually have to jump over anything in the triathlon, did they?
No, they didn't. I think that's a bit rich. It was still a triathlon, and I would probably have agreed, to be honest, going into it. I thought, I'm not sure these girls have trained specifically for this. This is not what you train for when you're doing Olympic distance training, which they've all done because they literally just came off the Olympics. But then Flora went and won it. So Flora only trained specifically for the Olympic distance, and clearly she was able to transition to this distance, and it was pretty exciting to watch.
Yeah, I have raced in similar formats before, and it is fantastic, and it's very spectator friendly.
Yeah, there are some different skills they have to master. The transitions, there's no margin for error. There's a bit more tactics involved. You really have to keep your powder dry on those qualification races. Run a little bit slower, run as slow as possible, but still make it through to the next round. There's no bonus for winning those early rounds. You just need to sneak through to the final, which Flora did to great effect, because she didn't show anything near the run in the first races that she did in that last race.
Well, a race that is over within 23 minutes, give or take. Literally, you cannot make a single error. And it's meant, because Maya Kingma didn't turn up, that we've had some pretty significant changes in the World Series ranking. So Flora Duffy is now at the pointy end of that and leading that. And then we've got Taylor Spivey in second, and Maya Kingma has dropped down to third. So everything to play for the grand final, which, got some big bonus points on the line there, and obviously prize money.
I think despite their concerns and complaints, in those finals, both the men's and the women's, we saw all the big names you would expect in that final. So I think we're probably going to see a bit more of this in future WTCS series.
Yeah, absolutely. Also this weekend, as we said, we had some fantastic racing. We had Escape from Alcatraz, which is obviously a very iconic race. On the men's side, we had Ben Canute winning it once again. In second, Jason West, and third, Bradley Weiss.
On the women's side, no surprise, Holly Lawrence was first out the water with a solid 2-minute lead on Emma Pallant-Brown. She then increased that lead by another 30 seconds on the bike, but Emma Pallant-Brown, who we have seen is in amazing form, ran her down to win by 40 seconds. So Emma Pallant-Brown's first win there, Holly Lawrence taking second, and Jackie Herring in third. Also this weekend, we had the Ironman European Champs. 2 separate races, the women in Finland on the Saturday and the men in Frankfurt on the Sunday. On the women's side, Laura Philipp ran away with it literally. She ran over 20 minutes faster than second place to win there. Jocelyn McCauley was in second, and Imogen Simmons in third. On the men's side, at Ironman Frankfurt, Patrick Nilsson had a very tight race, winning by only a few seconds over Christian Hokenhaug, and David McNamee coming in third, and in fourth, Peter Hemerick, who also gets his qualification slot. So 3 of those 4 get their slot. Christian Hokenhaug already had his, of course.
Fantastic. Moving on over to another iconic race, Ombrement over in France, which James knows well, having won it himself before. Comes with an impressive prize person, always attracts a stellar lineup. And on the men's side, it was Leon Chevalier that took the win there. Actually a local lad, trains around here in Bath, and actually set a new course record, 9 hours and 28 minutes. And then on the women's side, it was Carrie Lesser that took the win there. Both of which qualified for Kona, so looking forward to watching them there. But also Carrie Lesser going to be taking part in the Collins Cup just next weekend over in Slovakia. Talking of which, make sure you do tune into that. We've mentioned it a couple of times already, but the broadcasting schedule is over on the PTO Collins Cup website, so you can find out how to and where to watch the race wherever you are based. Also, they've been leaking some images of their new Collins Cup trophy, which looks rather impressive.
We wondered what it was going to look like in our Collins Cup video, and now we know.
We did speculate, yeah. Also, the PTO have another one of their Battle for Glory series videos where they follow a bunch of the pro athletes, this time Ellie Salthouse, so check that one out whilst you're there.
Yeah, coming up this coming weekend, Ironman Copenhagen. It's the last chance for the men. Again, separate men's and women's races. It's the last chance for the men to get those last 2 Kona slots, and one of those men going for that is Lionel Sanders. Nothing like leaving it to the last minute, Lionel. The following weekend is Ironman Hamburg, which is a women's only race where they get their last 2 slots for Kona. So both of those, everything to play for some of those athletes. Also coming up this weekend, as we mentioned earlier, WTCS Edmonton Grand Final. So The World Championship Series on the line, a few women vying for that title. It's not actually the last race of the year though, there. Obviously in this topsy-turvy COVID season, there's actually 3 more races still to come in the WTCS this year. So there's Hamburg, and then Bermuda, and then Abu Dhabi in September, October, and November respectively. So plenty more racing to come, even if they're already having the grand final this coming weekend.
Right, now to take a look through some of your photos and videos that you've sent in to us, and starting with this cracking one from Braden. I particularly liked it because he's clearly been inspired by my homemade DIY disc wheel, although he has made his out of cardboard.
Yeah, clearly Braden in the Blue Mountains, Australia was inspired. He did a little test, like a la Mark, where he upgraded his bike with a few tweaks, including a cardboard, not carbon, disc wheel cover. He says that after his 2 tests, this would save him over 18 minutes over the iron distance. Of course, if he spilt a bottle of water on that cardboard disc cover, I'm not sure it would save him any time at all. So you have to keep that cardboard disc cover dry, but we love your work, Braden. Pretty A for effort.
Yeah, I hope he was just as careful and exact with his testing as we are. Moving on to Stuart, and this one's actually close to home here in the Cotswold Water Park. He's on his Lee Cooper custom frame, which he says is 10 years old, but he's recently upgraded it. He said, it's the first race on this new / old build, but it was fast, and he won the aqua bike.
Look at the color of that bike.
Really cool.
Brilliant. I love the bold color. If you've got your own photos, videos, any kind of media, feel free to upload it in our uploader down below.
Okay, moving now on to the caption competition. And last week we had this photo, which we very much enjoyed the captions that you guys sent in to us. So starting with this one from Len Wintrock. He said, what do you say we take a run after this bike ride and get to know each other a little bit better?
It seemed like the pickup line / dating theme flowed through our captions this week. AM says, hey, I've seen you at the start line. Shall we grab a gel together?
Greg King, I'm really enjoying this form of speed dating. How about you?
And then the Avec, catching on to our comments last week about the latex skin suit used in the Olympics, says, hey, do you know we can use latex during the race now?
Anyway, moving on to the final one, which is the winner, is from Dom Lewis. What's a nice girl like you doing in a race like this?
Good one. Dom, get hold of us and we'll send you out a cap for the caption competition winner. Next week's caption, how about this photo from Ironman Frankfurt? It's Dave McNamee obviously having a little lie down and being whispered sweetly to by the winner, Patrick Nilsson. I think Patrick Nilsson was saying something like, sleep now. Once upon a time, there were 3 little bears and a girl called Goldilocks.
Very peaceful, James.
Yeah, I've done a few bedtime stories with my kids lately. So yeah, if you can do better in your caption, leave your caption down below and we could be sending you a cap next week.
Well, that's it for the show this week. We have plenty more coming up on the channel, including that disc wheel video with DT Swiss that I mentioned earlier, as well as our marathon training update.
Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And if you're looking for something to watch right now, Mark and I did a little test run in our Crocs to see how fast we could run a mile. Pretty entertaining video came out of that one. So go give that a watch.